Yeah, and David Lillian will tell you about the new arrangements regarding funerals and what can happen, okay? DCFM at 8.9, 24 past 9, and here we go.
It's time now for the latest news on what's hot and what's not in the world of technology with Mathew Dickerson on Tech Talk. Here on DCFM 88.9.
Morning, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, good. It is good to see things getting back to normal, Richard. The biggest problem I've heard you talk about so far in radio is that your coffee wasn't quite right.
No.
So things are getting back to somewhat normal, if that's the biggest problem we've got.
Yeah, the plunger died. It came apart. I'm going plunge and it went everywhere.
Look, some may say a first world problem, but it's better than having a problem with COVID every day.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. Yeah. I agree entirely. Speaking of that, COVID and everything, 5G antennas are supposed to be causing COVID, or COVID is caused by 5G antennas, and they're going crazy in my home area of Mullumbimby, Byron Bay. What is going on? This is nuts.
Well, it started off with a very funny tweet where someone put on Twitter that 5G was killing you and 5G was causing all sorts of problems. And that was posted by someone named James, whoever James might be. And there was a reply that came from Telstra. And Telstra said, at least if you have 5G in your area, you'll download your conspiracy theories faster. Which I thought was very funny, and most people saw the humour in it. Telstra actually put their hand up and said, look, it looked like it came from us, but that was someone else just impersonating a Telstra account. Yeah. So it wasn't actually us, but gee, we would have liked it to have been us, because that was a great comeback too.
It is a good comeback.
To all the 5G theories. Mullumbimby comes into it because there are some protesters around there, and there's some people in, say, Europe and in the UK in particular that are setting fire to 5G towers, that are actually vandalising them. At least in Mullumbimby, a little bit more peaceful. They're protesting. They are stopping workers coming to work and actually doing work on 5G towers. They're not destroying anything though. And Byron Council, of course, which is responsible for Mullumbimby, said that they're going to put a pause on any development with 5G just until they assess the health risks. I'm sure when they do that, they'll see that there are no reported cases, zero reported cases of any issues, in particular any COVID-19 issues caused by 5G, and I'm sure they'll continue on their merry way.
I still like the story from the Central West Daily about 6 weeks ago, where the lady in Orange was complaining about the 5G towers, and the Central West Daily newspaper picked up on the story. It made Media Watch on the ABC, and Paul Barry in the ABC said, well, this, that and the other about the Central West Daily. He said, and by the way, there's no 5G in Orange.
Right. So suddenly the symptoms will subside, and then in some period of time in the future when 5G gets turned on, you'll see those symptoms suddenly ramp up again.
Anyway, 5G in Dubbo during the first Monday.
No, we've had 5G in Dubbo for several months now.
Several months. But
last year.
But the pickup...
You'll have some more towers expanded from the 1st of June, but we've been quite forward in terms of the rollout across the nation. It started off early last year when they set up, I think, 10 cities, so you can imagine Sydney, Melbourne, etc. But at the end of last year, we actually had 5G in Dubbo, and that's rolling out now. And you've got a 5G phone, you get to experience those wonderful speeds.
Tell me about it. And I've got 5G at home, and it really is good working from home before I get here. Downloading stuff, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The 5G phone is very good too. Moving right along, a mega solar plant using 170,000 mirrors to generate heat for electricity. You wouldn't want to stand in front of that. Right.
No, you wouldn't want to stand anywhere near it. We're familiar with solar farms. Yeah. We've got a few around here, some on the outskirts of Dubbo, some in surrounding regions and towns. And so we see the normal solar panel like on our roof, where we've got a silicon wafer effectively that absorbs some of that energy and produces electricity. Yeah. When you start to get to ones of this size, 14 square kilometres of solar panels, they're not actually solar panels. They're mirrors. They're called heliostats, and they follow the sun across, and they basically redirect the sun's energy to a central point. And this particular solar farm, it's that in the Mojave Desert in California, has got 3 central towers. So the mirrors redirect the sun's energy to those 3 central towers, which then effectively boil water, produce steam, spin turbines. Enough power there to produce all the power that's needed for 140,000 homes just in one solar farm. Again, 14 square kilometres, so a fair size there. But you can start to see in desert locations, in locations where you've got a bit of space, these sort of solar farms going ahead. Now, we've got huge amounts of space in the centre of our country.
Yeah, about to say, yeah.
Yeah, the unfortunate part is getting it from where it is to where it's needed, the transmission. You lose a bit in that transmission, and the further you have to transmit that power, the more you lose. So that's part of the problem. But in places like California, where you've got large population centres very close by, they're demonstrating right now, as we speak, these solar farms being used to produce power at a very low cost, and in terms of long term, I can see huge advantages long term.
Yeah, well, look, you get a place like Broken Hill. Why wouldn't you whack one of those in at Broken Hill? Let's face it, there's plenty of spare country around Broken Hill.
Yeah, that's right. And again, you're just talking about that transmission.
Yeah.
So do it near Broken Hill to power Broken Hill, that's fine. But what we really want is we want Sydney powered, we want Melbourne powered. And again, getting close enough to those, or the transmission costs low enough. That's the big issue there.
Yeah, Neil Sedaka and the Carpenters come to mind with his next story, Solitaire.
Can you believe it? 30 years this game's been going.
Microsoft Solitaire, 30 years. I can't believe it because I play it quite often.
Well, you're not alone. There are 35 million people who are playing it every month. So it's something that people are still using incredibly. It was actually introduced back in 1990. A young intern at Microsoft got given the job and said, just do a simple little game so people can get used to the idea of using a mouse, because the mouse is actually quite hard from a spatial point of view. You've got something that's on a horizontal surface, moving a mouse around left to right, and you've got something that's in front of you going up and down left to right in terms of the monitor. So you're trying to translate in your brain horizontal to vertical motion. And that's actually quite difficult for people. I've seen people that have never used a mouse before, and when they want to move up the screen, they lift the mouse up. So it's not natural to move it in two different directions. So they introduced Solitaire as a way to get people used to using a mouse and just get the hang of it. And it was always just designed to be that. And one of the interesting things is that the young intern thought, maybe people at work will play this game and they'll get in trouble. So he initially put a mode called boss mode on there. Now, boss mode was so that you could click a button and that button would instantly put something that looked like an Excel spreadsheet on the screen. So if your boss walked past, oh, good work, Richard, you're working on that spreadsheet I've asked for, and you wait till the boss goes past and click back and keep playing Solitaire. They took that feature out. They thought that mightn't be good for Microsoft to encourage people to be slacking off at work. And there's a famous incident where Michael Bloomberg, who was mayor of New York at the time, walked past one of his staff members there, saw Solitaire on the screen, blew up, fired him on the spot for playing Solitaire. So it's still popular now, it's still being played. It's not actually, or it's taken out of the operating system back in Windows 8, I think was the first one. They removed it from the operating system. It's now an app you can download, but people are using it still on so many different apps, so many different devices. But again, that 35 million every month, incredible.
Yeah, look, it's great. And yeah, when you're passing time, you're at the airport waiting for a plane or waiting for a train in Sydney or something or other, well, yeah, why not?
That's right. It's a nice, simple game. Everyone can play it. Everyone understands it. So it's quite interesting.
Now, why in God's name do we have to have a race on internet speed? Tell me, why? Why?
We always want to race on internet speed. Too fast is not fast enough. So at the moment, there's some researchers in Australia, I'm proud to say, that say that they've cracked the world record for internet speed. Now, there's no Guinness World Record associated with this, so it's a little bit about just your own boasting and own bragging. But they're running tests at the moment on fibre optic cable, the same fibre optic cable that the NBN has used, at 44.2 terabits per second. So forget our miserable little 100 megabits per second that we're using, forget gigabits per second, this is 44.2 terabits per second. And they haven't just done it in the laboratory. Often when I read about these tests, they've done it a distance from me to you. They've done it 1.5 meters, and that's it. This has actually been done over 75 kilometres. So again, not across the world yet, but they're doing testing in sort of real world applications. Now, it's unlikely you're going to see a 44.2 terabits per second connection at your house sometime soon. This will mainly be used for connections between data centres or backhaul connections, because obviously it doesn't matter how fast a connection you've got at your house, you need to have the data centre that you're connected to have good speeds as well. But if we're getting to 44.2 terabits per second at the back end, that will make the experiences faster for us, especially when we've got so much extra pressure, 31% extra usage in the first quarter this year in the NBN just due to COVID-19. But I think we'll see a lag from all of this as well, because more and more organisations will say, we can actually work from home, we can work remotely, we can do education remotely. So I think we'll see an overall increase in internet traffic just because of COVID-19. And then something like 44.2 terabits per second makes a big difference.
It does indeed. Very quickly, the 2021 Mercedes-Benz E-Class will have a steering wheel that knows a lot about your hands. I have a steering wheel in my car that knows all about my hands at the moment. If I take my hands off the steering wheel, it will continue on, and because it starts reading the white line on the side of the road, if there's a white line. When it gets to those bits where you have to turn, staggered bits, it doesn't like that, it'll pull to the left. But Mercedes have got a steering wheel that does what?
Well, it's actually got capacitors in there, capacitive sensors actually to be technically correct. And so rather than just a button, many people are familiar with steering wheels now, they've got a button, they might turn their volume up and down, they might change channel, change it back to DCFM. But this has now got capacitive sensors so that just like on the screen of your mobile phone, you'll be able to swipe. So if you want to turn the volume up, rather than click a button for up or a button for down, you'll swipe on the spoke of the steering wheel for up and down for volume, for example. So if you've got things on your dash that you want to change the display on the dash, you'll swipe on the spoke of the steering wheel rather than click certain buttons. So again, they're trying to make that experience as familiar as possible, as easy to use as possible. And the capacitive sensors on the steering wheel, at the moment, you've got pressure sensors in your steering wheel so that your car will know when you've let go of the steering wheel and give you a certain amount of time before it says, hey Richard, do something to the steering wheel, and then you've got to actually make a movement.
Yep.
You've got to put some pressure on and make a movement. Because this has got capacitive sensors in the steering wheel, it actually knows whether you're holding on or not. You can see these little plastic grips you can buy to put on and pretend the steering wheel. I've seen them in various people with Tesla websites where they'll put these plastic grips on, then sit back and have a cup of coffee while they're driving along. So this is a little bit smarter than that. This doesn't rely on pressure. It relies on skin. It relies on components of your humanness to actually know that you're holding onto the steering wheel. So it's just the next advance in steering wheels before we finally get to the stage where we won't need a steering wheel at all.
Well, driverless cars, I mean, with mine, you take your hands off, it locks onto the car in front or the white line on the side of the road, that's fine. But about every 30 seconds, you just got to tap it.
It just wants to know that you're still awake.
Yeah. Well, I am awake at this hour of the morning. Matt, thanks for Tech Talk this week. And we'll see you next week. And to those people in Mullumbimby with the 5G tower, keep on batting, folks, because let's face it, you can do your anti-vax, but I don't think it's going to get much leg room out of a 5G.
No, I don't think so. I think people want the speed more so than they're worried about any health negative effects.
In fact, we're going to say good morning right now to our good friends at Geary Food Hub.